Alright, another draft physics video presentation. DraftScience here on YouTube. Yeah, I'm in a frame. Anyway, gotta find some decent overlays. It's the best I could find. So, there's nothing pre-made that fits the theme of the channel, so to speak. So maybe I have to make my own or something. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Silly things done for public consumption, and I guess that's what it is. It's all about selling this crap, and you have to sell it with hooters and asses and whatever else is popular theme. It's just so depressing. Anyway, so in depressing stuff, I did watch another Ken Wheeler video. So maybe I'll play some of that, because it's just on this general subject of free energy. And so I thought I would throw my 2 cents in. In other news, Franklin Hu, I finally got in contact with him, so we're going to have some conversation. Hopefully it'll be conversations. We can make it a series of some kind. I think we'll be able to have conversations that'll be productive, because I think we're both bounded by the evidence and the truth, and some sort of idea of understanding it, and accepting what exists as facts, what is hard evidence, and what is soft, and understanding the difference between these things. And whatever. No point. I think it'll be possible. He's a weird but reasonable sort, I think. So anyway, so that's good. In other news, the simulation, yes, it's being worked on. It's there's just this little subtlety to it. This whole force thing isn't as in the big universe, is really happening all on this little tiny scale, and it's hard to find the right scale to make it visible. So it's almost like you have to have the right speed, and there's a million speeds you could be running it at, but there's only one speed where you can actually see what's actually happening. So it's just finding the subtleties. The principle is there, and it works, but it just isn't good enough for public consumption yet. And the other guy working on the simulation isn't dead after all, so that's good. So should be something soon-ish. I do keep changing the rules a little, which does screw it all up, but I think the ones existing now are pretty solid, and so it's just finding how to blend them and such. So anyway, progress is being made. Sometimes just doesn't look like progress, and it will eventually look like progress. Alright, so what else? So that's it. And so the right-hand rule also comes up, and Miles Mathis did a paper on that, and just too silly, actually. And Ken Wheeler mentions, well, you have to understand the right-hand rule, and so that explains everything about this free energy crap. So I guess I'll do a little free energy stuff first, possibly. I have to have the right scene for that. So that would be this. Try the blackboard again. Yes, it's dangerous. Alright, so I have the blackboard set up, and then I just have to move the camera to a more proper position, and that should work. Alright, so this whole idea of free energy really, I hate to say it, comes down to some understanding of relativity, but it sort of does. So if you're moving and something else is moving the same as you're moving, there's no energy apparent, right? Nothing we would call energy is happening, because if you look at it, you're saying nothing's happening, it's not doing anything. So really it just has to do with the word energy, just has to do with doing something different than you're doing. So when something else is moving different than you're moving, that has energy. So if it's a bird flying or anything's happening that it's doing something different than you're doing, then you say energy. Okay, there's some energy, and so it really doesn't have a very absolute meaning. So it's just relative to us. And so there's all this energy out there, in the sense there's all kinds of stuff moving. It's all over the place. So anything, okay, in the universe that's jiggling or moving, you could argue has energy. Anytime a piece of matter goes from a point A to a point B, okay, there's energy involved. Okay, so, and again, but you won't see it if you're doing the same thing. So what we call energy is really just anything that's not moving the same way we are, or is moving from a different position than we are towards us or away from us, and we can capture that movement. We can take advantage of it. So you could have all these different examples of, like the moisture going into the clouds, and then the rain falls and then it hits high ground and has to go downhill. And we can take advantage of it. We put a wheel on there and we can catch the energy, the stuff moving differently than we're moving. We're here at the bottom, and so this is all, movement relative to us, either up. We could capture it going up, but it's much smaller and it's harder to capture. And then it gets consolidated in the clouds, and then it gets even more consolidated in the river, and that consolidation makes it easier to capture. And then you can have something like even nuclear energy, where you got the stuff inside the atoms, the little trapped bits of energy, and it goes in all directions, right? But it's released as heat, so it's energy in all directions, and we put it in a bunch of water, and then we can capture the heat and the movement in all directions, and use a turbine, spin it around, and make electricity that we consider to be, well, that isn't exactly perfect. We consider to be energy, that we can use, usable energy. So it's really just about capturing something else's movement. So nothing in the universe is really absolutely cold, and so everything has some energy just because it exists in the universe, I would argue. Every electron, there's no place it can really hide from energy. It's coming in all over the place in the universe, and the fact is that when an electron is in an atom, it's in more energy. It's in a bounding, relationship with other electrons, that has energy between them. And then there's the nucleus, and there's energy between them. It's a lower pressure. Then there's a higher pressure here. But the fact is that all of this is what, breaks apart in a nuclear reaction. And so obviously there is more energy in it, because when you break the atoms, you give off a bunch of extra little pieces, and the little pieces have energy in them. They're being propelled, they're being moved, they're being pushed. Then they're essentially being pushed by this kind of force stuff, this stuff in the form of little photons and gamma rays and X-rays, and they're what's really pushing the electrons. But I don't need to go into all that theory. I can't draw down there anyway, because you can't see it. I have to get the right position for all this stuff. I didn't want the silver sides to the board to show, so I'm trying to, that's probably the ideal position. So anyway, the word energy, there's lots of very cheap energy, right? So we can capture the sun really simple. You just have a black thing, just paint something black, it'll get hot, okay? You run water across it, you have hot water, okay? So, you can get free energy in a lot of ways. It's so cheap to create a device to capture it. The wind turbine, and, it's pretty simple. You just put some blades in the air and they spin around, and so that's pretty free. It's about as free as you can get. But this whole idea of a theory that there's some sort of energy, there's some sort of automatic thing in the universe where there's a bunch of, obviously you're sitting here in the universe and there's a bunch of stuff going in lots of directions that aren't your direction, right? There's birds flying, we could steal their energy, tie strings to them. There's lots of ways to take the energy out of the system. But there's no idea, no Tesla notion that there's all this energy going and we can just, put some in and then we can just take something out. Like there's a battery somewhere. There are batteries. In the sense that Earth is a battery to some extent. So Tesla had this dopey idea that you just pump a bunch of crap into the Earth and then you could just pull it out anywhere you want to. you know, and it was just kind of a dopey theory. And didn't really work. You know, yeah, but there's lots of free energy in the sense there's lots of cheap ways to get energy out of the system, to pull energy out. So that was the other video I saw with some other, you know, these propaganda videos. You know, this, I don't even know what this channel is. It's called FREQ Physics, and it doesn't have like hardly any subscribers, and nobody watches the videos. And I don't know whether it's a collection of other people's work because it's too well produced to be, you know, nothing. You know, for you know, made by a person can't be making all of these videos. But it's a weird collection of, some of them are legitimate videos and some of them are just all of this propaganda crap. You know, the amazing Nikola Tesla, he invented everything. You know, it's just so stupid. I mean, it's such an exaggeration of the role he played and any insight he had into how the world works, you know, in terms of how electricity works and all of that stuff. He really didn't have any correct notions. Now, the fact that Einstein is wrong about bent space, I would agree, but, you know, otherwise there ain't much there. All right, well, anyway, so this is the right hand. Oops, okay, I have to change the scene. Sorry. We're down here now. Okay, well, that's nice. All right, so this is the Miles Mathis spiel on you know, why there's a right hand rule, and he explains it by explaining that photons are spinning, and somehow they can spin clockwise or they can spin counterclockwise, and the whole universe is, you know, and the whole galaxy is either a clockwise galaxy or a counterclockwise galaxy, and, you know, because of the spin of the photons. And just, there's no way a photon can spin. First, it's a composite object, as I've pointed out so many times. Well, I might as well do a little bit on the right hand rule, though, just to throw it in there. So yeah, we'll change the scene again. Go back to this again. All right. Whoa. All right, so this would be a good opportunity to see if I can do any color stuff and actually make it show up. Oof. Use the cheap eraser. Anyway, oh, free eraser. All right, so current goes through a conductor. Okay, I can actually use 3 colors maybe. All right, and what we observe is that you know, when the current's going through there, you know, the compass needle will line up, you know, north, south, blah blah, in a certain configuration all the way around. So the same configuration, the same end pointing one way, the other end, and people think this means there's stuff swirling in these directions, you know, and that's just totally wrong. All right, that almost works. I'm still not far enough away, I guess. And it's, you know, anyway, I'll get that. I'll work on it. Eventually, get it right. Yeah, you can actually see the colors almost. All right. So what I would argue is really happening is when magnets are, when a substance is becoming magnetic. So the point is, when you're putting electricity through, you're ending up creating little magnets inside. The atoms are ending up becoming polar, you know, so they're turning into little magnets. And the point is which way, you know, how do they flip, so to speak. So I would argue that to understand a magnet, you'd understand that it's just a bunch of stuff, you know, atoms that will line up. Oh, damn it. Yeah, I really got to work this out. And so you could look at this stuff and you'd see that it alternates, right? I mean, so this is the geometry of the magnetic material. So once you magnetize a whole bunch of atoms, they'll line up sort of this way, the geometry like a checkerboard. Okay, I mean, the pink things and the blue things, you know, the black and red squares will be alternated. They'll never be touching each other. And the question is, though, is where's the magnet? Is this the magnet? You know, this bit here. Let me get rid of this. Or is, I don't have enough of a drawing to sit there and say, the other choice would be, is this the magnet? Okay. Is it blue-red or is it red-blue? And that's really the question. Which one's the real magnet and where are they connected to each other? And so I would argue that in the conductor there's a choice. Okay, that there is going to be an actual, it'll be either try another color. Either this is the magnet, okay, red, blue, or the magnet is blue, red, okay, underlying this geometry. One of these two is the right way, where the real magnets, the real atoms. And so that's what you're seeing. When the charge goes through the conductor, the outside gets magnetized and shows the property of magnetism anyway. It exerts the force. A force comes out that is magnetic. That is, it's alternating. The two different, I guess I should use this color, forces. And so the idea would be is that from one side it's going to be, pink, blue, and from the other side it's going to be blue, pink. And so you could sort of understand that if I go all the way around, I'll create a field here that's going to have a bias. This side is going to look blue, so this side of the compass needle is going to go that way, and this side is going to look pink, and I just dropped the other piece of chalk, and so it's going to line up, recognizing that this is blue and this is blue, and that's why. So the magnets just are the right hand rule just means that when the atoms change, they change in a specific way. They change by being pushed. When they're pushed, the electrons are on the outside, and so they switch to go to the outside, and the electrons would be the blue side. So the blue side goes to a certain direction, and by going in that direction, it ends up going down on the outside. So you end up with this kind of configuration. From any point of view, there's a decided blue, red, rather than red-blue. And that's the origin of the right-hand rule. It's mostly explained. Good enough anyway. Alright, so yeah, here's the dopey Tesla video. Yeah, so sorry I didn't have that on the screen before. And so we'll do some Ken Wheeler and just go home. It's just so silly. I mean, this jargon is just so empty. He says nothing. Hidden secret of power generation. There's no secret revealed here. There's nothing. It's just junk.
I miss my real fireplace. The digital one doesn't put out anywhere near as much heat as the genuine fireplace does.
Right, the fireplace his subscribers bought him, his little cottage and cabin in the woods with a barn and such, his farm. Yeah. His reward for making junk videos.
A genuine truth seeker is always trying to verify or disprove the premise, and belief. And of course, belief is a horrible word.
No, they're just arguing evidence. So, if somebody believes in a God, you point out, well, look, first your explanation of a God doesn't really explain creation, but you have to explain who created gods. So it doesn't really work as an explanation of anything. I mean, a God existing for an infinite amount of time who invents, stupid this is the best he could come up with after an infinite amount of time to think about it. Putting vaginas really close to anuses. I mean, things like that just seem so obviously a little bit stupid.
What people believe is not important. Genuine truth seeker is always interested in uncovering the nature of things, even if keeping an open mind to a certain degree, such that they can
blah 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 blah. Yeah, like Ken Wheeler can be convinced of anything. Anyway, so he said, he actually says, I changed my mind. I was always against free energy. Well, free energy was always a stupid way of saying it. All you're saying is it's cheap energy. And, really it should be really cheap. It's just that we don't quite have the technology. I mean, you could say like one asteroid heading for Earth, like something that weighs a certain amount, tremendous amount of energy to take advantage of, in the sense that it's going a very different direction than we are when it hits the Earth. And so lots of energy, but it's just that we don't have the kind of ropes and ways to catch it, to pull the energy out of it. And the same is true with the nuclear thing. There's a lot of energy there. It's just that we're not very good at getting it without screwing up.
Even change their position on prior held notions.
Look, we're not even smart enough not to put solar panels on roofs, where they're not directly pointed at the sun and they don't move with the sun. So we throw away half the value of the panel by putting it on a roof. Doesn't make any sense. So we're not very good at taking the available energy that exists.
I, for ages, thought that free energy was essentially impossible, and now I know it's 100% possible.
So whatever that means. It's 100% possible, but I won't explain a damn thing about what the hell you're talking about. What's the source? I mean, hydro is pretty cheap. Once you build the hardware, it goes and goes and goes, but it has an environmental issue, because you have to clog up a bunch of water and you have to kill all the fish, and even if you put it through pipes without a reservoir, you're still going to do ecological damage to the poor little biosystem, and you're going to heat the water, and a few other things are going to happen that are, unpleasant side effects. But there's lots of places to take the energy from. Again, windmills work. Yeah, do I have to spend some money on them? You got to maintain them and all that kind of crap, so it costs you some money. I mean, the thing with oil is it's really cheap, a lot of energy, really cheap to just pump it out of the ground and strike a match to it.
I spent many, many years researching the notes and the writings of Faraday, Tesla.
A whole lot of
there are no writings of Tesla, so that won't get you very
MailChimp
far.
smarts could mean even more sales.
Left the commercials in because it's a little more trouble to take them out, and it's a good point here that just how crappy Ken Wheeler is.
Steinmetz, Charles Proteus Steinmetz, Oliver Heaviside, James Clerk Maxwell, and Dollard and others. I got many of them.
Yeah, Dollard make no contribution. There's no insights. There's nothing. So he won't cite what this is, this whatever this is. Infinity and beyond.
Book here. I wish he was still alive. Oleg Jeffimenko. It's Causality, Electromagnetic Induction, and Gravitation. He actually was also, too, an expert on James Clerk Maxwell, Tesla, and Heaviside, but he wasn't able to come to the correct conclusions. He makes observations about fascinating points within Maxwell and Heaviside's and others' writings regarding free.
It's just kind of funny, him critiquing somebody else's nonsense with his, and he has nonsense as an answer. He doesn't tell us anything about how anything works. He can't draw a simple picture of this energy.
Energy. The electromagnetic lag via this book that's talked about, that the cause of kinetic energy is not transformed or transmuted into power creation.
Look, all you can do is there's energy. So the part of the argument I would make is that if there's matter moving, there's a force that's moved it. Okay, and that's just the truth. So it's captured it in a sense. And you can uncapture it by putting something in the way and having the matter push it, and then the force will be transferred into what you put in the way. So it's all a push universe, and things move because they were pushed, and that's just a simple underlying truth. And so you're just trying to find a push that you can take advantage of because you're going the other way.
When it comes to hydroelectric, when it comes to kinetic energy from wind, when it comes to turbines that are powered by nuclear and other kinetic energy devices, there is no transformation of one power to the other.
So it just doesn't make any sense to say that, right? When we know it's kind of obvious. It's a cue ball hitting the 8-ball, and the 8-ball moves, and the cue ball stops, and it's quite obvious you retard how fast the water moves by putting the water wheel in. The water from the hydro is the same thing. It's obviously you're taking the energy out of the system. You're taking energy that was in one vessel and you're putting it in another. So you're just taking quarters and turning them into dollar bills, and you can convert them back into quarters again. It's obvious that's what's taking place. So why would he say something this fucking stupid?
The most important secret, I've never read it in any other book by any conventional person of electrical theory, and it's incredibly important, is that one energy is not transmuted into another. Hydroelectric.
Yeah, it's the same energy, right? It's force moving matter. So, yeah, in that sense, it's all the same energy, but it's obviously you're transforming the medium. You're transforming what bits it's moving. It could be moving electrons or atoms or this or that, and you're converting it into one specific thing, like in the electricity, you're converting it into the motion of electrons.
Thermal, geoelectric, nuclear, wind. Solar is a different matter, however. What they do is they set up the condition whereby which energy creation is made manifest, and I'd like to read you a few things from this book, which are quotes. And Dr. Oleg D. Jeffomenko had 2 PhDs, by the way, he's a brilliant mathematician. He'd still never, and he disliked Einstein's beliefs quite extensively, but I don't need to get into that. His views on relativity and whatnot. But there are very important observations in Oleg D. Jeffomenko's work.
So he's going to give us some of that, and it's not going to sound all that impressive, trust me.
But he never draws any conclusions from that. None whatsoever, but these are incredibly important. Let me actually read a couple here for you. But as we've seen, neither Maxwell's equations nor their solutions indicate an existence of a causal link between electrical and magnetic fields. Therefore, we must conclude that an electromagnetic field is...
There is a causal link. I mean, they're the rays, the vectors of force. So Maxwell, in a sense, is showing you that, yes, there's a force, and the force moves from one place to another place. And that has an impact. But there's clearly force vectors in Maxwell's math, so it's just silly to say there's no causal link. The cause is that charges are radiating charge. It's a real thing they have.
Dual entity, always having an electric and magnetic component simultaneously created by their common sources.
Right, well, there's no electric field, so that's all just horseshit, but whatever.
Here's another one that's incredibly important. This book is falling apart. I have another copy of this book, but I always make a reference to this one. None of these pages earmarked. The point being is that
We have just 6 seconds
Another stupid
to
commercial.
Daniel Bat Lifebuoy. It washes away dirt and germs. Done.
2 of them.
power generation vis-a-vis Tesla's AC generator is a geometric arch form whereby which powers, and everything operates off of the right-hand rule. But
Geometric arch form. Okay, so what the hell is that? What the hell is it? What is that garbage? Doesn't say anything. Just people eat this crap up. And it's like he didn't say anything, assholes.
all the kinetic energy that we currently use for power generation are not themselves transmuted at all. Here we go. It's on page 8.
Transformed, transferred. So what does transmuted mean? Like, it's just another word for saying transformed from one place to another, moved. It clearly is. You're clearly converting heat into electricity by moving the turbine. I mean, clearly, movement in one place is converted into movement in another. You move the turbine. It generates electricity that moves a motor that was doing the same thing the turbine is doing.
20 of his book. By the way, this book is a download. If you search online, or maybe someone will post a link of this book. According to these equations, meaning Maxwell's equations, in time-variable systems, electrical and magnetic fields are always created simultaneously because they have a common causative source, the changing electrical current.
The irony is that they aren't created simultaneously, in the sense that they are, when the magnetic field is present, the electric field isn't, and vice versa. So clearly it's just one field that you label differently for different purposes, but it's the same field.
Once created, the two fields coexist from then on without any effect upon each other.
So saying absolutely nothing again some more. The magical field exists as a magical field of fielding, and the field does field stuff.
Therefore, and this is based upon the math of how all current power generation works, vis-a-vis Tesla, Faraday, Steinmetz, and Heaviside.
So obviously Tesla just burned holes in the ground. He didn't do any power generating. He paid a really big electric bill. He didn't generate anything. He took electricity from a power company that he paid for, and then he burned big holes in the ground.
Therefore, electromagnetic induction is a phenomenon in which the field creates the other, i.e. energy generation is an illusion. The illusion of mutual creation arises from the facts and time-dependent systems of the two.
So doesn't that say absolutely nothing? It's an illusion. It's not an illusion. The asteroid coming for Earth, the fact that it's going a different direction than we are, it's not going the same direction, so there's energy to be taken. Clearly. The asteroid could take it from us, or we can take it from the asteroid. It's our choice. Anytime things are moving non-symmetrically, there will be something called, hey, that looks energetic. I mean, I guess the illusion part is we could look like food to it, and it could look like food to us, but I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Fields appearing predominantly together. Yeah, that's right there. To actually sum that up into layman's terms, very, very simply, without citing you about 100 other passages in this book and some of it is math, which is actually taken from Maxwell's equation, is that no kinetic energy device, whether that be nuclear, wind, hydroelectric.
I don't even know how exactly he thinks nuclear is kinetic energy, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
On and on and on. None of those things themselves generate electricity. There is, from the current belief system.
Well, frankly, yeah, it's almost funny just because nuclear bombs create all kinds of lightning bolts, all kinds of shit. Yeah, just because of the amount of energy that's being put into the matter around the explosion. There's lots of static charges and lots of things built up, and there's lots of electricity created.
That you have, and even electrical engineers, is that one thing is transmuted. Well, kinetic energy creates power, it drives turbine. No, that's not the case. Like, you're actually throwing in cake ingredients, and the resultant cake, in this case analogously energy, is necessitated to the pot and the ingredients that you use to stick. In other words, you can never get a cake without throwing in the ingredients. The truth of the matter in applying that sort of analogy.
So you can get the cake without the ingredients, he's saying. You don't need the ingredients. You don't need something to be moving for you to steal movement. And yeah, you do. Yeah.
To this is that the ingredients are only circumspect to create the condition whereby which energy is generated.
Oh, so the ingredients are only important in the sense that they're the complete context and you need them for the thing to happen. Oh, okay. So he just said two different things. Don't need the ingredients? No, yeah, you need the ingredients. I mean, this is just such a babble. It's just amazing that he gets away with this babble. I mean, it's so silly. This should be like, there should be a TV show that just, wow, look how fucking silly this video is.
In other words, all AC generators generate energy spontaneously of themselves, but they...
Spontaneously of themselves. So he just said that's the AC generators, whatever is special about an AC generator. Frankly, there was never any other kind, but whatever. It's just, the only thing they changed, again, Edison made a crude flipping, generator, and so he just didn't do the whole circular round the whole thing and take advantage of all the space you could take advantage of. But that's all the difference is. It's just in the efficiency of the idea. And the idea came from telegraph.
They need the condition whereby which changing magnetic fields with a time variable involved, using the arch form of the AC generator.
So here we go, the arch form. It's like praying. It's the arch form of the AC generator. Again, it's just too silly.
From Nikola Tesla's invention and perfection.
So again, nothing, he didn't invent it. So it's just more horse shit. Just absolute nonsense. Didn't invent it. And the kind of motor he invented, again, is not the most effective motor in the universe either. It's not the only version of motor.
Affected by C.P. Steinmetz, Charles Proteus Steinmetz, the little person with the crooked hip.
Oh, geez, you always got to point out that he's short and got a crooked hip. So I always should point out you're bald, you have holes in your ears, you're fat, and you're tattooed. I always have to point that out.
Smoked a big cigar. He actually perfected Nikola Tesla's AC generator. It sets up the condition whereby which energy is manifest. But kinetic energy itself, nor wind, nor the nuclear power, nor any other hydroelectric, like Hoover Dam, the falling water actually spins up the giant turbines. But I mean, the water isn't transmuted into energy. What's kinetic?
So again, the water isn't. Who thought the water was? Nobody. It's the movement of the water.
Kinetic energy is spinning the turbine, and kinetic energy. The kinetic energy itself, if you actually understand what kinetic energy is, there's no transmutation of energy there. This is not.
So again, it just doesn't make any sense. It's clearly being transformed from one form, one kind of movement, into a different kind of movement. You're changing water moving down a stream, and you're converting it into electrons in a wire. I mean, it's a pretty substantial conversion.
Some sort of harebrained notion that I have. This guy has a dual PhD, and he's quoting from the works of Charles Porteous Feynman, James Clerk. Eric Dollard talks about this in his lectures. Not about this specifically, actually.
More, yeah, he doesn't say anything that you're saying. Yeah, he doesn't say anything about free energy. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, he still believes that you can do this whole thing where you can pump energy into the battery and pull it out anywhere you want to for free. And there is no good battery. The Earth leaks energy, okay? So the Earth isn't a good battery because it's leaking energy.
But he's like, if you don't understand, I think Eric Dollard's quote is if you don't understand the ether and counter space, you're never going to understand energy theory or electrical theory. For so many years, actually decades, I was certain that free energy was completely impossible, and I know now that it's absolutely possible because kinetic energy does not generate energy. It sets up the condition. That sounds like a distinction without a difference, but that difference is absolutely huge.
No, it isn't. It's a silly, it's movement. You're just converting one kind of movement into another kind of movement. Taking big objects moving and making it into a lot of small objects moving. You could take like a big snowball moving and break it into a lot of little snowballs moving. Understand it that way. But the movement is the movement. You're taking a certain amount of momentum and converting into momentum in another place, another confinement that you can control and that you can manipulate.
One energy is not transferred or transmuted into the creation of electrical power. No wind generator, no hydroelectric, no nuclear, no propane generator, no LNG, liquid natural gas generator, no gasoline generator, no generator which sets up a condition of creating kinetic energy such that it creates a time variable magnetic field for power creation. There is not a transfer of energy from one to the
other. So it's just kind of funny, right? Because you're sitting there next to a fireplace that's actually producing energy, right? It's not always the easiest energy to maximize, take advantage of, because you got soot and gases and all this other stuff that comes with it. But it's a pretty obvious conversion. You got a bunch of these stupid little solid blocks of matter, and somehow you're pulling a bunch of energy out of them, a bunch of movement. So a bunch of movement you didn't see that's inside the log in the terms of the chemistry and locked inside the atoms. You're converting the big atoms into little atoms, big molecules into small molecules. And by doing that, you got all this extra little bits flying out of the damn thing. He's saying that's not transmuted. Yeah, I think it's pretty transmutable. So it's a pretty good transformation of stuff that's in a container, one kind of container, and you're putting it in a completely different kind of mechanism.
The other. Nobody is talking about that in any YouTube video. I know of no article anywhere on the web, and I've done a lot of searching.
Why would anybody talk about it? Why would anybody say that you're not, like that fire could be under a big kettle, a steam kettle, and produce pressure, in the water, and, move a train? So why would somebody say something stupid like there's no transmuting going on when it's all kinds of transmutation taking place? You're converting movement into another kind of movement, and you're doing it in ways where it's completely different looking. Big snowball versus little ones.
A lot that speaks about this. There might be one that I'm not aware of. The point being of power creation is spontaneous of itself with the condition and the arch form being the AC. And Eric Dollard talks about...
All right, the arch form and the spontaneous. I mean, right there, every brain that works should be saying, what are you talking about, spontaneous? There's no fucking spontaneous. It's a cause and effect universe, retard. There's no spontaneous. Where is spontaneous? Where is that happening? Where's there a spontaneous? Show me a spontaneous anything.
The AC generator just being an arch form, and of course he's 100% correct. It is an arch form. It is a special geometry to take advantage of the right-hand rule. Everybody should learn what the right-hand rule is. The right-hand rule is of power generation. You actually know the current, you know the field, you know the direction of current. Just look up the right-hand rule. There's like 10 million examples on Google or Bing.
And they will tell you nothing. Okay, they'll explain absolutely nothing about what causes there to be a rule. And I've sort of given you some indication. The rule is just made out of the process of atoms changing their polarity, that is squishing. And as they squish, they polarize in the opposite direction of their squish. And they are magnets still, though, in the sense that the atoms are still magnets oriented in one direction, even though they're all lining up north, south, north, south, north, south. They aren't south, north, south, north, south, north. Even though they could look that way, that's not what they are. And that makes all the difference.
What this means is that with the correct arch form,
I mean, the checkerboard of the south pole of of a magnet looks exactly like the checkerboard on the north side, right? Except the south pole ends with south, red, and the north pole ends with north, not blue. Black squares. One side has black squares at the bottom, and the other one has red squares. That kind of thing.
that you can spontaneously manifest energy. Current AC generators do spontaneously manifest energy.
So again, he just said spontaneous again 3 times or whatever. What are you talking about? Spontaneous. What are you talking about? It's clearly a conversion. I don't even know how you can say the word spontaneous. You clearly have to change it from going one way to going another way. And you could watch the change. You could watch it moving through time. It's not spontaneous.
We think we are been deluded. Well, waterfalls turns up the spins up turbine. Kinetic energy from like nuclear. Nuclear, of course, creates steam. The steam turns turbines. Well, nuclear energy is you and I and everybody else in this world, undeniably, we're taught the exact same garbage in school. Well, nuclear power plant works like this. The rods are withdrawn. It heats up the water creates steam. The steam turns to turbine. So we have this idea that nuclear energy is somehow transformed into electrical power generation, and it doesn't do that at all. Well, up there on the top.
I don't know. So again, how can he say this stuff and then people say, yeah, I totally get that. I get how when they describe that process, that's not really the process. They've been lying to us about this process. No, that's the process. The little X-rays and gamma rays and particles fly off of the nuclear material and they jiggle the water molecules. They agitate them. They bang into them. They cause them to move more. That heats the water, and then the water is not compressible, so that means more pressure, and we take advantage of the pressure.
On that wind turbine, the big 100-foot towers with the gigantic 3-bladed propeller. Wind turns the generators. The wind is transformed into energy. Well, it's not. That's not the case. A condition is manifest such that energy generation will pour forth.
So a condition is manifest. That is, there's wind and there's an atmosphere first to actually have wind in, right? So you're blowing atoms. You're moving the atoms in a direction fairly rapidly. They hit the material of the windmill. They force the material of the windmill to move based on the way you've geometrically positioned it. And they spin, and you take advantage of the spin to turn a turbine to make electricity. I mean, how is that incorrect? I mean, it's just so stupid.
Time variable magnetic fields. I read it to you right here. The whole book is full of this, and this is not the only book. According to these equations, these are the equations of Maxwell, James Clerk Maxwell. My book is falling apart.
So he's basically arguing we don't need the wind, we just need the turbine. And, we can just say spontaneous. And you say spontaneous to it, and it just starts spinning.
Therefore, electromagnetic induction is a phenomenon in which the field creates the other is an illusion. In other words, kinetic energy does not create energy. It creates a condition where energy is manifest. That is a huge distinction with a huge difference. It
sounds absolutely silly. There's no point. Yeah, you've got to explain what this important difference is. What is happening? Stuff is moving, Ken, and moving isn't spontaneous. So explain the part where it gets spontaneous. Explain how you spontaneously did movement.
Like to a person that doesn't have a very sharp mind, like a very, very meager nuance. Well, that meager nuance is absolutely everything. What that means is that free energy is absolutely, undeniably 100% possible. Something that I myself did not believe.
So whatever. So has he explained how it's possible? No. How you spontaneously generate the magical movement without movement in. So you don't need movement in to make movement out. That's what he's saying. No movement in required. Don't need an asteroid to be moving. Don't need the moon. We could tie a rope to the moon, and take advantage of its, its movement, its velocity. lots of ways. But no, things don't need to move. I can tie a string to a bird and it can just sit on its perch and spontaneously electricity will come flying through the wire.
For ages and ages, free energy is not possible. Free energy is possible. The only question is what is the specific field geometry or the arch form? Because Nikola Tesla's IC generator is an arch form. What is the specific arch form?
The arch form. Again, so Tesla has no AC generator. There's no such thing as the Tesla generator. So this is just such a pile of crap.
For free energy generation, which does not require any kinetic input to create the condition for power generation.
There's no kinetic input, so nothing has to be moving. You just, you don't even have to. You can just. I'm trying to think of something more ludicrous than what he's already said. It's more ludicrous than tying a string to a bird that isn't flying. But anyway.
Anyway, if you'd like to read this book, I've seen it in other videos of mine where people post a link to get this book. I wish he was still alive. He was a very, very brilliant scientist.
Yeah, right. Sure. Says Ken Wheeler.
He himself didn't put two and two together, however. He never made the statement that I made, but the facts are utterly conclusive.
Yes, and he didn't read any of those to us, did he? No. The stuff he read was just gibberish. Nonsense.
Kinetic energy does not get transmuted into electrical energy. It's sent down to transformers and power lines and substations and pours into your house to feed your electrical devices. Anyway, I hope you like it.
It's just moving electrons, frankly. An asteroid is electrons and protons moving. So, and all you're doing is saying, well, can I make that movement move electrons in a wire? And the truth is you can. It's just that you have to do it the right way physically or you get squished.
This video, I hope it gives you food for thought. Thanks so much for watching, and Lux Emeritus.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck you too. Fat fucktard. Anyway. He's that big roundy guy. I'll just point out like something like that, right? Just the point that he's always picking on Steinmetz because he had some physical, disabilities, impediments, misconfigurations. And he just always has to point it out. You got big boobs, Ken. That big boobed guy. Just say that kind of shit. It's just so funny. The irony of it, the pathetic irony of it. But anyway. Yeah. Jeez, why do I wake up every day? No point in talking to human beings. So 770 thumbs up, 23 thumbs down for absolute shit talk. I mean, just couldn't be more crap, nonsense, babble, gibberish, horse shit. Not a frickin' insight to be had anywhere in that nonsense. Just so depressing. Alright, so that's all I have to leave on another depressing note. It's always the depressing note I have to leave on. I guess it's just so frickin' pervasive. This is worse than the Planet of the Apes. I think I could reason, with an ape. Better than you can reason with a human. But anyway, they're just too far gone, too far down their religious colon. Ugh. So, till the next time and such. Shit. Oh, maybe I should go back to my frame. It's nice there. Yeah. Alright, so, till the next time and such, and so forth and whatnot.